The top 1% don't think better, they think differently. That's the truth most people miss. Success isn't just about working harder or being smarter. It starts in the mind. It starts with how you think, how you decide, how you act when no one's watching. If your mindset doesn't change, nothing in your life will. The people at the top, those who grow faster, live stronger and stay focused, they don't follow the way everyone else sees the world. They question what's normal. They don't waste time proving themselves. They don't chase approval. They focus on what moves them forward. If you're tired of feeling stuck while others seem to be moving ahead, the shift starts right here. This isn't a motivational talk. It's a mindset reset. In this audiobook, you'll learn how the top 1% actually think, what they avoid, how they respond to pressure, and how they build their lives with purpose. This is how they think, and this is how you change everything. Chapter 1. Question everything. You were taught about success early. You grow up hearing a lot of things about what it means to be successful. People tell you to follow the rules, work hard, go to school, get a good job, save a little, retire at 65, and if you're lucky, you'll live a good life. That's the path most people take. But the truth is, that's not how the top 1% think. They don't follow what everyone else blindly accept. They question everything, especially the things they were taught early about what success is supposed to look like. If you want to rise above average, you've got to start by thinking differently. And that begins with this. Don't believe something just because everyone says it's true. You've got to examine it, test it. Ask yourself, does this way of thinking actually work? Has it created the life I want? If not, it's time to challenge it. You were probably taught that working harder is the key to getting ahead. But many people work hard and stay broke. They wake up early, they stay late, they take pride in working 2 jobs, but they're still struggling. So maybe effort alone isn't the answer. Maybe it's not about working harder, maybe it's about working smarter, with intention, with strategy. The top 1% understand this early on. They don't just chase effort, they chase effectiveness. They ask, is what I'm doing actually moving me forward? You were probably taught that stability is the goal. Get a steady job, hold on to it, avoid risk, and don't step outside the system. That's what you're told. But the top 1%, they reject that idea early. They see that playing it safe is the biggest risk of all. They understand that depending on one income, one employer, or one plan makes you fragile. So they start thinking in terms of independence. They don't wait for someone to give them a raise. They figure out how to create value, solve problems, and build something that can't be taken away by a single decision maker. They take control. You were probably told that success comes slowly over time. If you just keep your head down and wait, it'll come. But that's not how the top 1% look at it. They don't wait, they move. They don't sit around hoping for opportunity, they create it. They don't believe in luck, they believe in preparing themselves so that when opportunity shows up, they are ready to act. They don't need a perfect moment, they need a reason, and once they find it, they go all in. You were likely taught that money is the root of all evil, that people with too much money are selfish or greedy. But here's what the top 1% understand. Money is a tool. It's not good or bad. It depends on who's holding it. If a good person has more money, they can do more good. If a wise person has more money, they can create more impact. The top 1% don't feel guilty for wanting more. They see money as a form of freedom. It buys back time, it expands choices, it creates security, it allows them to focus on things that truly matter. Now think about this. You were probably taught to keep your head down, follow the crowd, and not make too much noise. Don't draw too much attention to yourself. Be humble. Stay in line. But the top 1% learnt early that the crowd is usually wrong. They understand that if you follow what everyone else is doing, you'll get what everyone else has. And most people aren't where they want to be, so they separate themselves, not with arrogance, but with purpose. They're not afraid to stand out, to challenge popular ideas, to say no when everyone else is saying yes. They've trained their minds to think independently. They trust their own judgment more than the opinions of others. You might have been taught to wait for permission. Wait for someone to notice your talent. Wait for someone to give you a shot. But the top 1%, they don't wait. They take responsibility for their future. They don't hope someone opens a door. They build their own. They don't rely on approval. They rely on preparation. They know they're not owed anything. So they work on themselves until they become too good to ignore. You may have heard that failure is something to avoid, that messing up is embarrassing, that if you fail, you're not good enough. But the top 1% think very differently. They treat failure like a teacher. They embrace it because they know success is built on mistakes, trial, and adjustment. They expect setbacks. They don't panic when something goes wrong. They study it, they take notes, they get back up and keep moving. They don't measure themselves by how often they fail, they measure themselves by how quickly they get back on track. You might have been told that knowledge is power, but the truth is, knowledge alone isn't enough. The top 1% know that applied knowledge is what matters. You can read all the books you want, watch all the videos, take all the courses, but if you don't do anything with it, it's just information. The real power is in action, in doing something with what you've learned. They turn learning into results. Now, think about what you've been taught about time. Most people treat it like they have forever. They waste it on things that don't matter. But the top 1% think about time differently. They treat time like a limited resource. They don't let people steal it. They don't waste it on distractions. They track it. They manage it. They protect it. They ask themselves daily, did today move me closer to the life I want? Because they know you can lose money and earn it back, but you can't get your time back once it's gone. You may have been taught that emotions should guide your choices. If you feel tired, rest. If you feel scared, wait. If you don't feel like it, don't do it. But the top 1% don't let feelings run the show. They lead with discipline. They train their minds to act based on decisions, not moods. They understand that greatness comes from doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. They separate what they feel from what they must do. That's how they build consistency. That's how they build strength. You might have been told to just be grateful for what you have and not want more. And yes, gratitude matters. But the top 1% balance gratitude with hunger. They're thankful for what they have, but they're still reaching, still building, still aiming higher. They don't settle just because they're better off than others. They keep growing, not from lack of contentment, but from a deep desire to use their full potential. So here's the truth. If you want to rise, you've got to question what you were taught. You've got to look at the beliefs you were handed and ask, do these ideas create the life I really want? If they don't, you've got to be willing to replace them. You've got to stop listening to average minds and start building an uncommon one. You've got to stop fearing what people think and start trusting your own growth. You've got to stop playing small and start thinking like someone who wants more, not just for the sake of more, but for the sake of impact, strength, and freedom. Most people were raised with a mindset designed to survive. The top 1% rewire themselves with a mindset designed to win. And it all starts when you're willing to look at everything you were taught about success and ask yourself one honest question. Does this actually serve the life I want? If not, it's time to think again. Because thinking differently is not a luxury. It's the first step to real change. Chapter 2. Act like nobody will ever come save you. If you really want to change your life, you need to accept one thing early. No one is coming to rescue you. Nobody's going to show up one day with all the answers, all the motivation, and all the resources you need. The truth is, you are the only one responsible for how your life turns out. The faster you understand this, the sooner you stop waiting and start building. Too many people spend their lives waiting. They wait for the right time. They wait for the right person. They wait for help. They wait for approval. They wait for motivation to magically appear. But that kind of waiting leads to nothing but regret. Days go by, then weeks, then months, then years. And by the time they finally realize no one's coming, they've already wasted too much time. The top 1% never wait for someone to come fix things for them. They don't expect anyone to carry them, push them, or save them. They wake up every day with one mindset. If it's going to happen, it has to start with me. That's not negativity. That's ownership. That's power. That's real strength. It means you've stopped handing your life over to outside forces and started pulling it back into your own hands. You may have grown up hoping someone would understand your struggles and step in to help you. Maybe you thought your boss would notice your efforts and promote you, or your family would support you once you found your passion, or your friends would push you to chase your dream. But most people are focused on their own lives. They're not sitting around thinking about how to change yours. And it's not because they're bad, it's just reality. You have to care about your life more than anyone else ever will. And you can. You can care enough to get up early even when no one tells you to. You can push yourself when nobody is watching. You can study, grow, improve and evolve because you've made the decision to become something more. Not for applause, not for validation, but because it's your job. It's your duty. It's your responsibility. People want freedom, they want control. They want success, but all of those things come with a price. And the first price is giving up the fantasy that someone will hand it to you. Nobody owes you anything. Life doesn't reward wishful thinking. It rewards action, consistency, courage. The kind of effort that starts when you stop asking for permission and start building your own path. There's something deeply powerful that happens when you stop looking around for help and start looking within. You realize you have more power than you ever gave yourself credit for. You start seeing solutions where others see problems. You stop blaming and start building. You stop doubting and start doing. It's not about being alone, it's about being responsible. It's about knowing that even when people love you, they can't do the work for you. They can't carry your discipline, they can't force your habits, they can't climb the mountain you were born to climb. Only you can do that. The top 1% don't walk around looking for someone to believe in them. They decide to believe in themselves, even when no one else does. They don't sit around hoping things get easier. They make themselves stronger. They don't make excuses for why they can't. They keep working until they can. Most people are raised to believe in help. And sure, help is good when it comes. But help is not something to rely on. Help can't be your foundation, because help isn't always there. You might be in a place right now where no one understands your goals, where people around you are comfortable staying the same, where no one pushes you to be better. That's not a reason to stop. That's your signal to take over. When you rely on others to save you, you stay small, you stay dependent, and deep down, you know it. You feel stuck because you're still waiting for something to happen to you instead of deciding that you're going to happen to life. The moment you stop expecting someone to show up and fix your situation is the same moment you take your power back. This doesn't mean you have to do everything perfectly. It just means you have to own everything completely. If something is holding you back, change it. If something isn't working, adjust it. If you're not where you want to be, admit it and start doing something about it. You don't have to blame yourself, but you do have to hold yourself accountable. Because the second you do, everything becomes possible. People might say you've changed, and you know what? You should. You should become the kind of person who stops complaining and starts solving. You should become the kind of person who doesn't wait for someone to believe in them. You believe in yourself first. You build confidence by keeping promises to yourself, by doing hard things, by earning your own respect every single day. When the top 1% face a setback, they don't look around for a handout. They don't collapse. They face it. They ask, what can I do next? They don't panic. They prepare. They don't beg for fairness. They get focused. That's why they win. Not because they're lucky, not because someone saved them, but because they made the choice to act when others waited. You don't need anyone to rescue you. You need to make decisions that match the life you want. Every day you wait, you're giving away time you can't get back, and no one's going to give it back to you. So what are you going to do with it? You can either keep hoping someone else will make it easier, or you can become the kind of person who rises no matter how hard it gets. You don't have to be fearless, but you do have to be willing. Willing to show up when you're tired. Willing to keep going when it's hard, willing to change what's not working, willing to move even when there's no one there to push you. That's how the top 1% think. That's how they live. Every time you feel alone, remind yourself, this is your life. No one else can live it for you. No one else is coming to save it. And once you take full ownership, you'll find a strength that was there all along, the strength to build, the strength to lead, the strength to keep going until you break through. So stop waiting. Stop hoping someone else will carry your load. It's your load, it's your mission, and it's your time to rise. Not when someone tells you to, not when you feel ready, but now. Because real power comes the day you decide that no one is coming, and you act anyway. Chapter 3. Stop choosing easy just because it feels safe. Every day you're faced with choices. What to do, what to avoid, where to spend your time, who to become. And at the center of every decision there's always a simple question. Do you want what's easy, or do you want what actually helps you grow? The truth is, most people choose easy, not because they're weak, not because they don't want a better life, but because easy feels familiar. It feels safe. It's the path with less resistance, less discomfort, less uncertainty. But what feels safe in the moment often becomes the reason people stay stuck for years. Choosing what's easy might give you short-term relief, but it costs you long-term results. When you avoid the challenge, when you step back instead of stepping up, when you take the shortcut because the real path takes effort, what you're really doing is training yourself to stay the same. The top 1% think differently. They know that growth doesn't live in comfort. It lives in difficulty. It lives in discipline. It lives in the effort that most people try to avoid. They stop chasing what feels easy and start chasing what makes them stronger. Nobody grows by staying where it's comfortable. You don't build discipline by avoiding work. You don't gain confidence by playing it safe. You don't develop leadership by doing only what's familiar. The skills that change your life are on the other side of discomfort. But you'll never get there if you keep reaching for ease the moment something feels hard. The people who win, the ones who break through, the ones who lead, are the ones who lean into the resistance instead of running from it. When you choose easy, what you're really doing is choosing to delay your own progress. You're telling yourself that peace now matters more than power later. But eventually, easy becomes a trap. You get used to it. You get addicted to not trying. You start building a habit of stopping early, of giving up fast, of letting fear decide how far you go. That's how people slowly become less than what they were meant to be. Not because they're not capable, but because they never challenged themselves to go beyond what felt safe. There's no safety in avoiding responsibility. There's no freedom in avoiding effort. Safety, when taken too far, turns into limitation. It convinces you to settle. It lowers your standards. It keeps you in jobs you've outgrown, friendships that drain you, habits that keep you small. And after enough time living that way, you start to forget that you ever had potential in the first place. The people who rise, the ones who actually change their lives, are the ones who actually change their lives. 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 They understand that struggle is not something to escape, it's something to grow through. You won't always feel like showing up. You won't always be excited to push forward. You'll have days when the easy road looks tempting, but you have to ask yourself, what kind of life do I want? Do I want the life that comes from always picking the lowest difficulty? Or do I want the life that comes from earning it, step by step, rep by rep, day by day? Does the life in the door? You're not going to change by doing what you've always done. You're not going to become mentally strong by choosing comfort every time something gets hard. Every time you pick what's easy, you trade your future for a little bit of relief. But when you pick what's hard, when you lean into discomfort, you grow. You build something real. You build habits that carry you. You build strength that doesn't shake when life gets tough. The top 1% understand this early. They don't pick easy. They pick what works. They pick what builds. They pick what prepares them for the future. They push themselves when it would be easier to quit. Not because they enjoy pain, but because they understand what's on the other side of it. They don't need everything to feel good. They just need to know it's worth it. That mindset separates them. That decision, made over and over again, is what builds a life most people never get to experience. Choosing hard doesn't mean you make life complicated. It means you do what matters. It means you go toward the thing that will make you better. It means you stay committed even when motivation disappears. It means you follow through even when no one claps for you. That's how character is built. That's how confidence grows. And that's how you create a life you don't want to escape from. Nobody sees results by doing what's comfortable. You don't level up by repeating yesterday. You level up when you demand more from yourself, when you stretch, when you commit, when you show up in the moments most people walk away. And that's where the difference is made. Not in the major wins, but in the daily decisions to lean into what's hard, to keep going when it's boring, and to stay focused when it would be easier to give up. Some days it will feel easier to scroll on your phone instead of doing something productive. Some days you'll feel like skipping the workout, avoiding the task, or pushing your goals off to next week. Those moments are your training ground. That's where your mindset gets shaped. That's where your discipline is forged. Every time you say, "I'll do it later," You teach your mind that comfort comes first, but every time you act anyway, every time you keep going when your feelings say stop, you build power that doesn't go away. You've got to understand this. The people who think differently are not superhuman. They just made a decision. They made a decision to stop chasing easy and start doing what works. They built themselves, one decision at a time, one habit at a time. And if they can do it, so can you. But it starts when you stop letting ease guide your life. The future depends on what you tolerate now. If you keep choosing what's easy, you're choosing to stay in the same place. But if you decide that you're done with comfort, that you're done shrinking to fit into spaces that no longer challenge you, then you've just opened the door to real change. It's not about being perfect. It's about being committed. It's about being honest with yourself. Can you look at your day and say, I gave it my best? Can you say you did something today that stretched you, that challenged you, that made you better? Choosing what's hard doesn't always show results right away, but over time it adds up. You become the person who doesn't quit. You become the person who handles pressure. You become the person who can lead, build, and win without needing someone to push you. That's the reward. That's the win. That's the path. You don't get there by doing what's easy. You get there by rising every time your mind says, take the day off. You get there by proving to yourself that you can do more, that you won't settle, that you won't waste your life doing the bare minimum. The truth is, you already know what to do. You know what's easy and what's right. The question is, are you willing to make the hard choice now to build the life you say you want later? You're not here to live a small life. You're here to become someone you're proud of. Someone who keeps going when most would stop. Someone who doesn't chase comfort but chases growth. And that journey starts the moment you stop choosing easy just because it feels safe. Chapter 4. Start your day knowing exactly what you want. Every day begins the same way for everyone. You open your eyes, the morning starts, and time begins to move whether you're ready or not. But what separates people who move forward from those who stay stuck is this. Some people start their day with purpose, and others start their day by reacting to everything around them. The top 1% don't just wake up. They wake up knowing exactly what they want. That's the difference. That's the mindset that changes everything. When you get up in the morning and your mind is foggy, your energy is scattered, and your actions are random, don't be surprised when your day feels wasted. Don't be surprised when you go to bed frustrated, feeling like you did a lot but moved nowhere. That's what happens when you don't begin with clarity. That's what happens when you don't decide in advance what matters. When you don't decide how your day should look, the world decides it for you. You fall into everyone else's plans. You react to their urgency. You chase their goals instead of your own. People think the day starts when the alarm goes off. That's not true. The day starts when your mind is clear on why it matters. Without a clear reason, most people go through the motions. They pick up their phone, they scroll, they check messages, they check what other people are doing. And just like that, their brain is being trained to respond instead of lead. They fall behind before they even begin. You can't afford to live like that if you want real progress. You can't afford to let your day start by accident. The people who build strong, meaningful lives don't do that. They wake up with intention. They know what they're working on. They know why it matters. They know what they need to finish by the end of the day. And because of that, they don't waste hours wondering what to do next. They don't need motivation every 5 minutes. They're not constantly distracted. They know their direction. And because they know, their actions stay aligned. You have to decide early, before the noise, before the pressure, before the distractions, what kind of person you're going to be that day. If you wait until things get hard to decide how you'll respond, you've already lost control. But when you begin with purpose, you carry that purpose with you into every task, every conversation, every decision. You're not just staying busy, you're building something that matters. The top 1% don't guess their way through the day. They prepare, they plan, they choose how they want to show up. That's not about being rigid, it's about being clear. When you're clear on your mission, you don't let other people's opinions shake you. You don't let distractions pull you off course. You don't let minor setbacks stop you. You know what you're after, and that knowledge gives you focus. It gives you structure. It gives you control. You can't keep living the same routine and expecting a different outcome. If you want better results, you have to start your mornings differently. You have to wake up and ask real questions. What am I trying to build? Who am I becoming? What's my main goal today? What does winning today look like? These are the kinds of questions most people never ask, and that's exactly why most people never feel progress. They live on autopilot, they move without meaning, and eventually they lose the hunger to even try. But you're not here to live that way. You're here to grow. You're here to lead your life, not just watch it pass by. You can't afford to be casual about your mornings, because your morning sets the tone. It sets your pace. It decides what you're likely to do for the next several hours. If you start scattered, you'll stay scattered. If you start reactive, you'll stay reactive. But if you start with discipline, you'll move with strength. If you start with clarity, you'll finish with progress. When you know exactly what you want, every part of your day starts to align. You eat differently, you think differently, you say no to things that don't support your goal. You stop being confused about what to do next, and that saves you time, energy, and stress. It puts your power back where it belongs, in your hands. That's what the top 1% understand. They don't leave the day to chance. They don't wait for the mood to hit. They create the direction they want to go in. Think about the last few mornings you had. Were you sharp? Were you locked in? Did you move with purpose? Or did you just roll into the day and hope things worked out? Be honest, because that answer is shaping your life. If you don't like where your life is heading, don't start by blaming others. Start by changing your mornings. Start by getting serious about the first decisions you make. Start by telling yourself the truth about what you want and what needs to happen for you to move closer to it. You don't need to wait for a perfect morning routine. You don't need to copy what someone else does. You just need to know what you want and why it matters, and then make decisions that reflect that. You might not control everything that happens during your day, but you control how it begins. You control what you feed your mind. You control what you focus on. And that control is enough to create massive results when you use it wisely. It doesn't take hours, it takes clarity. 10 minutes of direction can save you 10 hours of confusion. When you start your day with intention, you give yourself an edge. Most people wake up and waste time deciding what matters. You already know. That's power, that's focus. That's how leaders live. Don't wait until you feel behind to figure out what you're chasing. Decide it before the day begins. Don't wait until you're overwhelmed to start managing your time. Set your priorities before the chaos shows up. Don't wait until you're frustrated to remember your mission. Keep it in front of you from the moment you rise. That's how you stay grounded. That's how you stay in charge. When you know what you want, you don't get distracted by what doesn't help. You don't let boredom steal your time. You don't follow noise. You follow purpose, and that's the life you deserve. A life where you choose how to spend your time, how to use your energy, and what direction to grow in. So tomorrow when you wake up, don't reach for your phone. Don't fall back into routine. Don't let your day run you. Take 5 quiet minutes and ask, what matters most today? What needs my full focus? What will make me proud when this day ends? And then get moving. With clarity, with energy, with real purpose. Because the most powerful thing you can do isn't to do more. It's to do what matters most on purpose every single day. And it all begins the moment you start your day knowing exactly what you want.
Chapter 5. Say exactly what you think without feeling guilty. Most people never realize how much of their life is shaped by what they don't say. They hold back. They stay quiet when something needs to be said. They agree just to keep the peace. They pretend to be fine when they're not. And over time, that silence turns into stress, into regret, into frustration that builds up inside and slowly erodes their confidence. The top 1% live differently. They don't walk through life hiding what they think. They speak clearly. They speak directly. They say exactly what's on their mind, and they don't carry guilt for doing it. You've been trained since childhood to be polite, to avoid confrontation, to soften your words so no one gets uncomfortable. You've been taught that being liked matters more than being honest, that fitting in matters more than being true to yourself. But the cost of that is your voice. And when you lose your voice, you lose your power. You lose your ability to influence. You lose the ability to stand for what you believe in. You start building relationships based on lies, on pretending to agree, pretending to care, pretending to stay quiet, just to protect someone else's feelings. But your mind, your opinions, your beliefs, they matter. And if you don't speak them, no one will ever know who you really are. You're not here to play small. You're not here to stay invisible. You're here to live with strength, and that starts by using your voice with clarity, with confidence, and without apology. Saying what you really think doesn't mean you speak with disrespect. It doesn't mean you attack people. It means you stand your ground. It means you don't let others decide what you believe. It means you speak up when something is wrong. It means you don't pretend to agree just to avoid discomfort. Discomfort is not something to run from. It's something to walk through. Because every time you speak the truth, even when it's hard, you build trust with yourself. You train yourself to live with courage instead of fear. It's not easy at first, especially if you've spent most of your life holding things in. The first time you say what's really on your mind, it might feel awkward. You might second-guess yourself. You might feel nervous about what people will think. That's normal, but you have to do it anyway. Because the alternative is staying silent and watching your life move in directions you don't agree with. You'll end up doing things you don't believe in. You'll say yes when you should have said no. You'll keep relationships that drain you. You'll take jobs that don't fulfill you, all because you didn't speak up. The top 1% understand that honesty is not a threat, it's a strength. It doesn't mean you're harsh, it means you're real. It doesn't mean you're rude, it means you respect yourself. People may not always like it when you speak your truth, but the right people will respect you for it. And the wrong people, well, they were never meant to control your life in the first place. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to be clear and direct. You need to trust that your opinion has weight, your thoughts have value, and your voice has the right to be heard. Every time you speak honestly, even if your voice shakes, you're training yourself to be stronger. And over time, that strength becomes who you are. Living in guilt for expressing yourself is a trap. You're not responsible for how others react to your truth. You're responsible for speaking it with clarity and purpose. If someone feels uncomfortable because you were honest, that's not your burden to carry. You can care about people and still disagree with them. You can love someone and still tell them the truth. You can say no and still be a good person. Stop apologizing for your standards. Stop watering down your truth so others can feel comfortable. Stop editing your thoughts to make people like you. The moment you start speaking freely and honestly is the moment you begin to live fully. That's when your relationships become real. That's when your confidence starts rising. That's when you stop living in your head and start leading your life. Think about how many times you've said something just to be accepted. Think about how many times you kept quiet because you didn't want to be judged. How many times you said it's fine when it wasn't. That's not strength, that's fear. and it slowly chips away at your identity. It teaches your mind that your truth doesn't matter. And once you start believing that, you stop showing up fully. You're not here to be silent. You're here to speak what's real. You're here to bring clarity, not confusion. You're here to lead with purpose, not passiveness. And leadership starts with honesty, not just with others, but with yourself. When something feels wrong, say it. When you have an idea that matters, share it. When someone crosses a line, call it out. Not to argue, not to fight, but to live as someone who respects themselves enough to speak clearly. You don't need a crowd to approve your thoughts. You don't need a room full of people to agree with you. You just need the courage to say what's real. That's how you earn your own respect. That's how you build your voice. That's how you become someone others look to when things get unclear. Not because you talk the loudest, but because you speak with purpose. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop rehearsing what you want to say 100 times before you say it. Speak now. Speak directly. Speak honestly. Even if it's messy. Even if it's not perfect. People remember truth, not polished performances. People follow those who are real, not those who pretend to be agreeable all the time. When you get used to speaking your mind, you feel lighter. You stop carrying emotional baggage. You stop resenting people for not understanding you, because now they have the chance to hear you. You give people the opportunity to know who you really are. That's how real connection happens. That's how strong communication is built. And that's how you create space to live a life that reflects your real values, not someone else's expectations. The world doesn't need more people who blend in. It needs more people who stand firm, who say what they believe with strength, who show up with their truth and don't apologize for it. That's how you influence. That's how you lead. That's how you break the patterns that hold people back. And every time you hesitate to speak up, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Am I scared they won't like me? Am I scared they'll leave? And then ask the deeper question, what will it cost me if I stay quiet again? What will it cost my future, my goals, my peace? Your voice is not just a tool, it's your weapon against passivity, against living a life that's shaped by silence. Say what you mean, say what you know is right, say what you need to say before regret shows up. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be honest. That's where your freedom lives. That's where your power begins. Say exactly what you think and stop feeling guilty for being real. That's how the top 1% think, and that's how you rise. Chapter 6. Control your day before it. Controls your mind. Most people wake up and walk into their day without any structure. They open their eyes, check their phone, scroll through notifications, read messages, look at the news, and let everything outside of them decide how they feel. From the moment they wake up, they're already behind, already pulled in too many directions, already reactive. And that's the problem. The day starts running them, the tasks pile up, the noise increases, and before they know it, they've lost control of their time, their focus, and their mindset. The people who are in control of their lives don't let that happen. They wake up and take charge. They don't give their energy to the world before they decide where it needs to go. They know that if you don't control your day, it will control you, not just your schedule, but your thoughts, not just your plans, but your emotions. One unexpected message, one delay, one distraction, and your entire day can spiral unless you've already locked in your direction. You don't need to control everything that happens, but you do need to control what you give your energy to. You need to start your day knowing what you're working toward, how you'll protect your focus, and what actually matters. Without that, your mind becomes scattered, pulled into everything, and committed to nothing. You end up feeling tired, frustrated, overwhelmed, and yet nothing important actually gets done. And it happens again the next day, and the next, until you begin to think that this constant stress is normal, but it's not. You're not supposed to live in chaos. You're not supposed to feel like time is slipping through your fingers every single day. That only happens when your day is running you, and not the other way around. The top 1% don't just plan tasks, they protect their minds. They build a structure that supports mental clarity. They're not perfect, but they are deliberate. They don't hand their time over to every request, every notification, every distraction that shows up. They decide how the day will move, and then they follow through. This doesn't mean filling your day with more to do. It means choosing what matters and sticking to it. It means saying no to things that don't move you forward. It means removing clutter from your time so your mind can breathe. The reason most people feel exhausted isn't because they're doing too much, it's because they're doing too much of the wrong things. Things that don't align, things that don't build anything meaningful, things that interrupt their rhythm over and over again. If you want to think clearly, you've got to protect your space. Your mornings need to be quiet and intentional, not loud and reactive. You need a moment before the world gets loud to decide what kind of mindset you're going to carry. If your mind is calm, your decisions are strong, but if your mind is overwhelmed, everything becomes heavier, everything takes longer, everything feels harder. The day doesn't get better by chance, it gets better because you took control early. The people who build real progress know this. They don't leave the day up to emotion, they lead with structure, they decide what time they start, they decide what gets their attention, they set priorities based on their goals, not their moods. And that's the key. If you wait to feel like doing it, you won't. But if you already decided what needs to be done, your feelings don't matter as much, you just do the work. Control is not about being rigid, it's about being intentional, it's about having a plan and sticking to it, even when things get messy. Life will interrupt you, that's guaranteed, but if you've already locked in your purpose for the day, you won't fall apart. You'll adjust, but you'll stay focused. You'll respond, but you won't break. You'll get knocked down, but you won't stay down. The reason this matters is because your mind is your most valuable asset. If your thoughts aren't clear, your actions won't be consistent. If your energy is scattered, your results will be scattered. If you don't know what to focus on, you'll spend the whole day being busy, but not productive. That's how people stay stuck. They work hard every day, but they never move forward, because their actions aren't tied to a direction. Control your day before it gets loud, before the phone rings, before the inbox fills up, before the world starts asking for your time. Start with 5 minutes of clarity. Write down your main goal, pick your top 3 tasks, set your schedule, and follow through. You don't need perfection, you need control, you need consistency, you need to stop being at the mercy of everything around you and start owning your time. You're not overwhelmed because life is too busy, you're overwhelmed because you haven't decided what to cut. You're not behind because you're not capable, you're behind because you haven't committed to a process. That changes when you stop reacting to the day and start owning it. You don't need more hours, you need more clarity. You don't need more motivation, you need more structure. You don't need to do everything, you need to do the right things and protect the time to do them. Most people don't take control because they're afraid they'll miss out. They want to keep every option open. But here's the truth, freedom doesn't come from keeping options open. Freedom comes from choosing one direction and committing to it. The more you eliminate, the clearer your mind becomes. The fewer decisions you have to make, the more energy you have for the ones that matter. Control creates freedom, and that freedom allows you to build the life you actually want. This isn't about perfection. You're going to have messy days. You're going to get off track. But the goal isn't to never fall. The goal is to get back up fast, to reset, to regain control, to stop letting one bad hour ruin the whole day. The faster you realign, the stronger you become. That's the difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's how fast they recover control of their day and their mind. Don't let another day slip by without direction. Don't keep waking up just to fall into old habits. Decide today matters. Decide what success looks like before distractions pull you away. Choose your mindset before anything outside of you does. Take full responsibility for how you show up. Your time is your life, and how you spend today is how your future gets built. No one can control the world around them, but you can control your focus. You can control your thoughts. You can control how you spend the next hour, and then the next. One focused hour at a time is how you build a focused life. One strong morning at a time is how you build a powerful week. It's not what happens to you that defines your results. It's what you do with what happens, and that power is always yours. Stop saying you don't have time. Start owning the time you have. Stop blaming your schedule. Start designing your schedule. Stop chasing productivity hacks. Start mastering your priorities. The top 1% don't look for ways to do more. They look for ways to do what matters most without distraction, and they protect that time like their life depends on it, because it does. Control your day, or your day will control your thoughts, your energy, your results, and your future. You get to choose which one it will be, every morning, every hour, every single day. Chapter 7. Let go of people who drain your drive. There comes a time in your life when you need to ask yourself a hard question: who around me is helping me grow, and who is quietly holding me back? The truth is, not everyone deserves a seat in your life forever. Some people lift you up, push you forward, support your progress, and help you stay on track. But others do the opposite. They doubt you, dismiss your goals, bring negativity, and constantly feed your fears. They may not say it directly, but their presence slowly drains your drive. And if you don't recognize it early, it will cost you your future. You can't build something meaningful while staying surrounded by people who drain your energy. You can't stay motivated around people who are always complaining. You can't think big around those who only focus on problems. And you definitely can't chase your potential if you're always around people who've given up on theirs. Letting go is not selfish. It's necessary, because the environment you keep is shaping how you think, how you feel, and how you perform every single day. Too many people waste years trying to fix relationships that keep pulling them backward. They hold on to friendships because of history, not alignment. They tolerate constant criticism because they're afraid of being alone. They shrink their goals to avoid judgment. But if someone in your life constantly makes you second-guess your passion, if you feel drained every time you talk to them, if they make your progress feel like a burden, you're not obligated to stay close. Loyalty should never come at the cost of your own growth. You have one life, you have limited time, you have goals that matter, and you can't afford to stay tied to people who don't want the best for you. You don't need drama. You don't need endless conversations about things that don't lead anywhere. You don't need people who feel more like weight than support. What you need are people who challenge you to level up, who believe in what you're building, who keep you focused when your mind starts to drift. Some people are great for comfort but terrible for progress. They may care about you, but they don't understand your hunger. They may love you, but they don't share your mindset. They may be present, but they don't push you, and over time that lack of alignment turns into resistance. Every time you talk about your dreams, they dismiss it. Every time you try to change, they question you, and every time you try to grow, they remind you of who you used to be. You can't carry that with you if you're serious about becoming who you were meant to be. You don't have to hate them, you don't need a fight, but you do need boundaries. You do need space. And most importantly, you need clarity. Who adds to your focus? Who challenges your excuses? Who encourages your effort? And who always seems to take more than they give? The top 1% protect their energy. They understand that success isn't just about discipline and hard work. It's about the environment you live in every day. You can be motivated, skilled, and focused, but if you're always surrounded by people who speak from fear, who feed doubt, who avoid effort, you'll start to lower your own standards just to fit in. That's how potential dies slowly. Not from failure, but from tolerating too many distractions that come dressed as familiar faces. Letting go isn't cold, it's responsible. It means you've outgrown certain conversations. It means you're choosing peace over noise. It means you're tired of explaining your goals to people who never really listen. Not everyone will understand the life you're trying to build, and that's okay. But you don't need to stay in places where your energy is constantly being drained just to make someone else comfortable. Start being honest with yourself. After you spend time with someone, how do you feel? Are you more focused or more distracted? Are you more inspired or more doubtful? Are you excited to get back to work or tempted to take the day off? Your energy doesn't lie, and if someone consistently leaves you mentally tired, emotionally exhausted, or spiritually empty, it's time to create space. You don't need to announce it. Just protect your space by how you respond, how you engage, and how you show up. The more you grow, the more you'll realize that not everyone can go where you're going. Some people are only meant to be part of a chapter, not the whole story. If you try to carry everyone with you, you'll lose your pace, you'll slow down your mission, you'll start questioning what you know is right, just to avoid conflict. But leaders don't live that way. They move forward even when it means walking alone for a while. Growth requires space. Space to think, space to reset, space to breathe, and sometimes that space can't exist with certain people still in it. If you're always explaining yourself, always justifying your ambition, always downplaying your hunger, you're not free, You're managing people instead of building your life. That's not strength, that's delay, and delay over time turns into regret. You deserve people who see your fire and protect it. You deserve people who check on you, not just when you're low, but when you're winning too. You deserve conversations that don't waste your time, relationships that add clarity instead of confusion. You deserve a circle that helps you get sharper, not duller. And it's up to you to build that, not by waiting but by choosing. Choosing who stays close, choosing who gets your time, choosing who you listen to. The strongest people are not the ones who carry the most. They're the ones who learn when to release. Releasing isn't about cutting people off in anger. It's about knowing your mission, knowing your direction, and protecting the energy required to get there. Every minute you spend explaining your growth to someone committed to staying the same is a minute you're not moving forward. Make no mistake, your drive is rare, your hunger is uncommon, your commitment to growth will make others uncomfortable, but you don't owe anyone your silence, you don't owe anyone your attention, and you don't need to lower your pace to match people who never intended to move in the first place. Let go, not with hate, but with peace. Let go because you love your future more than your past. Let go because your energy is too valuable to be spent on arguments that lead nowhere. Let go because your vision is clear and your time is short. Not everyone will celebrate your progress. Not everyone will respect your time. Not everyone will understand your purpose. But that's not your problem. Your job is to keep building, to keep growing, to keep rising, and to do that, you must protect your drive from anything or anyone that weakens it. Letting go doesn't make you heartless, it makes you focused. It means you're no longer willing to carry weight that doesn't belong to you. It means you've stopped trying to fix what doesn't want to grow. It means you're finally choosing you, and when you choose you, everything begins to change. Chapter 8. Challenge yourself until quitting no longer feels normal. Quitting is something that becomes easier every time you do it. The first time, it feels heavy, it bothers you, you wrestle with it, but the more you quit, the more normal it feels. You stop feeling guilt, you stop feeling urgency, you start building a habit of walking away when things get tough. And that's dangerous, because quitting then becomes your answer to pressure. It becomes your reflex, not because you can't win, but because you never challenged yourself enough to break that pattern. People don't fail because they're not capable. Most fail because they stop too soon. They hit resistance and think something's wrong. They feel tired and assume it's a sign to pause. They don't see results fast enough and decide it's not meant for them. But growth doesn't work like that. Growth waits on the other side of that urge to quit. Strength is not built when things are easy. It's built in the moment when everything in you says stop, and you decide to keep going anyway. That's when you start rewriting your limits. You can't become consistent if every challenge makes you retreat. You can't build grit if you always look for the exit when it gets uncomfortable. And you can't break through if every delay becomes your excuse to walk away. The top 1% understand this. They've trained themselves to keep pushing when most would fold. They've practiced pressure so many times that quitting no longer feels natural to them. It's not even an option. Their first instinct isn't to stop, it's to find a way. That kind of mindset doesn't show up by luck. It's earned. It's shaped over time by repeatedly showing up in situations that test your limits. Every time you do one more rep, one more hour, one more day, you build mental armor. You prove to yourself that discomfort doesn't control you. You take back power from your emotions. You start trusting your effort more than your excuses. Nobody is born with mental toughness. It's developed through a decision. The decision to go again. The decision to not listen to the voice in your head that says, you can skip today, you've done enough. The voice that tells you, just slow down, it's too much right now. That voice will always be there. The difference is whether you train your response to it. Most people listen, they believe it. They give in without even questioning it. But the top 1%, they've practiced doing the opposite. They don't wait to feel ready. They act. They don't expect it to be easy. They expect it to be hard, and they welcome the challenge. There's something powerful about doing hard things until they don't scare you anymore. The more you face resistance, the less it shakes you. You stop flinching when plans change. You stop folding when something takes longer than you thought. You stop giving up when it gets repetitive or boring. Because you've trained for this, you've faced the internal war before, and you've learned how to win it. You have to become someone who chases challenge, not someone who avoids it. The more you stretch yourself, the more resilience you build. The more pressure you handle, the less afraid you become of pressure itself. That's when things shift. That's when you realize your capacity was always bigger. You just never gave yourself the chance to test it. You never pushed far enough to see what you were really made of. Start doing things that make quitting harder to justify. Set goals that mean something to you. Commit to habits that don't break just because the mood changes. Push through tasks that feel annoying. And finish what you start, not for applause but for yourself, for your identity. Because every time you complete what you commit to, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. And that trust builds discipline. Your mind will always try to protect you from discomfort. That's its job. It wants you to rest. It wants you to avoid risk. It wants you to stay in safe zones. But that part of your mind can't lead your life if you want to grow. You have to make decisions that align with your purpose, not your preference. You have to chase the feeling of being proud of yourself, not just the feeling of temporary relief. If you've quit before, don't carry shame, carry awareness. Ask yourself why. Was it fear? Was it lack of clarity? Was it impatience? Be honest, but don't stay stuck in that story. Start rewriting it. Pick something today that challenges you and follow through, not for results, but for who you become in the process. That's how you build mental toughness, one completed challenge at a time. You can't build a different life with the same habits that kept you stuck. You need to challenge your thinking, challenge your routines, challenge your pace. Every day, you have two options: to stay where you are or stretch into something better. And most people choose to stay, not because they're lazy, but because they've never pushed long enough to see what's possible. They quit before the transformation happens. You can train yourself to stop quitting, but that only happens when you make challenge your new normal, when you do what's hard, not once but repeatedly, when you wake up and do the thing you said you would, even when you don't feel like it, when you hold yourself accountable, even when no one's watching. That's when quitting starts to feel unnatural. That's when pushing becomes your instinct. That's when you rise above the level of average. Most people think the goal is to be motivated. It's not. The goal is to become unstoppable, regardless of how you feel. You'll have days when your energy is low. You'll have days when things go wrong. You'll have days when progress is invisible. But if you've trained yourself to push through all of that, you don't break. You adapt. You adjust. But you don't walk away. The top performers don't have fewer problems. They just don't give up when those problems show up. They've trained their mindset to treat setbacks as part of the process. They keep going through boredom, through doubt, through obstacles. That's why they keep winning. Not because they're smarter, not because they're stronger, but because they never got comfortable with quitting. Build the kind of life that requires mental strength. Put yourself in situations where you need to dig deep, where you need to overcome resistance, where giving up feels like a betrayal of who you've committed to becoming. That's how you start to shift. That's how you leave behind the version of you that was okay with stopping early. And that's how you step into the version of you that's ready to finish what they start. Quitting is a pattern, but so is persistence. You get to choose which one becomes your default, and it starts today. Choose one thing that stretches you. Do it until your mind tells you to stop. Then keep going. Keep going because you said you would. Keep going because you're building something bigger than comfort. Keep going until stopping doesn't even cross your mind. The real win isn't just reaching the goal. It's becoming the kind of person who doesn't stop until they do. And that transformation only happens when you challenge yourself every single day, until quitting no longer feels normal. That's how you build a life with no limits. That's how you rise. That's how you win. Chapter 9. Keep promises to yourself like your life depends. Most people are good at keeping promises to others. They show up when someone needs them. They follow through when someone is counting on them. They make time for other people's needs, other people's plans, other people's standards. But when it comes to keeping promises to themselves, that same commitment isn't there. They say they'll wake up early, and they don't. They say they'll stay focused, and they get distracted. They say they'll change their habits, and they make excuses. And over time that becomes normal, not because they're lazy, but because they stopped treating their own word as something sacred. If you want to build real confidence, it doesn't come from motivation. It doesn't come from speeches or books or videos. It comes from doing what you say you'll do. It comes from proving to yourself that your own voice can be trusted. Every time you make a promise and don't follow through, you train your mind to doubt you. You teach yourself that your goals don't matter, that your word is negotiable. And when that becomes your pattern, your self-respect starts to drop. The people who are consistent, the ones who build real results, treat their own promises like they would treat a promise to someone they love. They don't skip what they said they'd do just because it's hard. They don't give themselves an escape route every time it gets inconvenient. They hold themselves to a high standard, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not, because they understand something most people ignore. When you start breaking your own word, your entire life becomes unstable. If you say you're going to show up at the gym and you don't, it's not just about the workout, it's about your identity, it's about what you just told yourself you're okay with. If you say you're going to work on your dream every morning and then skip it 3 days in a row, your mind doesn't forget that. It keeps score, and the more you break those small daily commitments, the more you lose belief in your ability to follow through. That's why you start doubting. That's why you feel stuck, because deep down you don't fully believe you'll do what you said. But here's the truth. You can rebuild that belief. You can change the pattern, and you do it one kept promise at a time. You don't need to do 10 things. You just need to do the one thing you told yourself mattered. You said you'd write today. Write. You said you'd focus. You said you'd stop scrolling. Stop. Not for someone else, not for approval, but because your life depends on being someone who keeps their word to themselves. Nobody else is going to save your standards. Nobody else is going to hold your identity together when your habits fall apart. That's your job. That's your responsibility, and it starts with how you treat the smallest promises, not the big goals you post about, but the quiet commitments, the 6 a.m. alarm, the 30 minutes of focus, the one thing you said you'd finish. Those moments are where your confidence is built. That's where your future is shaped. It's easy to keep promises when things are going well, but what about when you're tired? What about when you're stressed? What about when the results aren't showing yet? That's when the test happens. That's when you find out what kind of person you really are. And if you can follow through in those moments, you start building a mindset that doesn't break. You start becoming someone who can trust themselves completely. That kind of self-trust is rare, and it's powerful. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be honest. If you say it, mean it. If you commit, do it. And if you fall short, don't explain it away. Don't pretend it didn't matter. Admit it, adjust, and do better next time. That's how character is built. Not through performance, but through consistency. You know how it feels to break your own word. You feel disappointed. You start questioning yourself. You make another plan. You try again. But eventually, if you don't break that cycle, you get tired of trying. You start aiming lower. You stop dreaming. Not because your dreams were wrong, but because your trust in yourself was never rebuilt. And that's the danger of broken promises. They steal more than your goals. They steal your belief in what's possible. You can get that belief back, but you have to get serious about how you treat your own word. Don't say things just to feel good in the moment. Don't set goals just to impress people. Set goals that matter to you, and once you do, protect them. Wake up like they're non-negotiable. Show up like your identity depends on it, because it does. When you keep promises to yourself, something shifts inside you. You start walking differently. You think clearer. You stop second-guessing everything. You stop looking for outside motivation, because now you know that when you say something, you'll actually do it. That kind of consistency is rare. That kind of self-respect is powerful, and the people who have it don't need to explain themselves. They don't need to talk about what they're doing. You can see it in how they carry themselves. Start with one promise today. One, not 5. Just one thing you said you'd do. Block the time. Do the work. Finish it. And do that again tomorrow. Stack those kept promises. Stack that discipline. Build the habit of following through even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. That's how you grow. That's how you rise. Not through public praise, but through private discipline. This isn't about motivation. This is about becoming someone you trust. Someone who doesn't need to keep restarting. Someone who doesn't need to talk about what they're planning because they're too busy doing it. That starts with the voice inside your head. The one that knows when you're lying. The one that knows when you're procrastinating. The one that knows when you're playing small. Train that voice to believe you again. And once you do, everything starts to change. There are no shortcuts to self-respect. There are no hacks for real belief. It comes from showing up, doing the work, finishing what you start, and keeping the promises that matter, especially the ones you make to yourself, because that's the foundation everything else is built on. And when that foundation is strong, there's nothing you can't build on top of it. Chapter 10. Think about consequences before you choose quick pleasure. Every day you're faced with decisions. Some are small, some are big. But the one pattern that shapes your entire life is this: do you choose what feels good right now, or do you choose what builds a better future? That's the line that separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. The moment you chase short-term pleasure without thinking about what it costs you, you start trading your future for something that doesn't last, and you don't even realize you're doing it, because in the moment it feels easy, it feels harmless. But those moments add up, they build habits, and those habits decide your future. Quick pleasure is always available. You can sleep in instead of getting up early to build something that matters. You can scroll through your phone for hours instead of learning a new skill. You can eat junk when you know your health matters. You can choose distractions over discipline, and every one of those decisions feels like nothing in the moment. You tell yourself you'll fix it later. You tell yourself you'll get serious tomorrow, but then tomorrow comes, and the same choice is in front of you again, and again, and again, until eventually it's not just a bad choice, it's your default. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to start thinking ahead. You need to stop living like the next 5 minutes matter more than the next 5 years. You need to train your mind to ask, what will this cost me? Not just how does this feel right now, because pleasure without purpose leads to regret. It leads to a life where you always feel behind, a life where you're constantly trying to make up for lost time, a life where you're busy escaping pain instead of building something meaningful. The top 1% don't just act on impulse, they pause, they consider the consequences, they ask hard questions. If I skip today's discipline, what does that do to my momentum? If I say yes to this now, what am I saying no to later? If I keep choosing comfort, what kind of life will I end up with? They think ahead, not because they're cold, but because they're committed. They've trained themselves to value long-term wins over short-term comfort. That's why they're different. Not because they don't feel temptation, but because they don't let it lead their life. You have goals, you have a vision of what your life could look like, but every time you choose what's easy over what's meaningful, you push that vision further away. You might not feel it right away, but the damage is there, and the longer you ignore it, the deeper it grows. That's how people get stuck in cycles they can't break, not because they don't know what to do, but because they never stopped long enough to think about the outcome. Pleasure now feels good. That's why it's tempting. That's why it's so common. But comfort has a cost. You just don't pay for it today. You pay for it in your health, in your energy, in your peace of mind, in the confidence you lose every time you break a promise to yourself. And the more you choose it, the more your standards drop, the more you normalize cutting corners. And soon you forget what discipline even feels like. You can break that pattern. You can train yourself to stop chasing moments that offer relief, but steal progress. You can start by asking better questions. What do I want my life to feel like in 6 months? Will this decision help me or hurt me? Am I moving closer to who I want to be or further? You don't need to answer perfectly. You just need to be honest. That honesty is where change begins. Not with motivation, but with awareness. It's not about cutting out all pleasure. It's about making sure your pleasure doesn't sabotage your purpose. It's about building a mindset that knows when to say no, that knows when to walk away, that knows how to delay gratification in service of something bigger. That kind of thinking doesn't come naturally. It's trained, it's sharpened through repetition, through discipline, through having a clear reason for why you're doing what you're doing. People who succeed don't have more willpower. They have more clarity. They know what they're working for. They remind themselves daily. They don't let the emotion of the moment dictate the direction of their life. They stay grounded in their priorities. And when something tempting shows up, they weigh the impact. They don't act without thinking. That's not control. That's chaos. If you've been stuck in a cycle of distraction, understand that it doesn't make you weak. It just means you've been living without structure, without accountability, without a system for catching yourself before things spiral. But you can change that. Start by catching the moments where you're tempted to give in to the easy way. Don't shame yourself. Just observe. Ask, why do I want this right now? Is it boredom? Is it stress? Is it just habit? Then ask, what's a better choice? Choose that instead. Do that enough times, and your brain starts to shift. You stop needing the quick fix. You start craving progress instead. It takes practice to become someone who thinks before they act. But every time you pause and choose wisely, you build power. You build mental strength. You stop living at the mercy of your feelings and start